This is Kim Cook. I'm with Bread of Life Mission, and we are here doing conversations on a bench. I'm a little tired, so excuse me. I've been sitting on this bench most of the last, I don't know, do the math, since 1 o'clock yesterday afternoon, and had some great conversation, getting a little tired. I'm done at 1 o'clock today, and this is just meant to bring awareness and have discussion around homeless issues and just come together as a community and talk about the crisis that we're experiencing around mental illness, addiction, and homelessness. And we've had some great conversations. We've had some disagreement, but it's been friendly and loving, and I love that. So we're going to do a couple more interviews here before we're done today. And right now I have Sam Wolff with LEAD here in Seattle, and he is going to explain to us what LEAD is.
Sure. Is this audio okay? Okay. Hi. As Kim said, I'm Sam Wolff. I'm the Seattle LEAD Program Director. LEAD stands for Law Enforcement Assisted Diversion, as well as Let Everyone Advance with Dignity. LEAD is a program that was started in Seattle in 2011. At that time, many things were different, but also a lot of things were the same. We had people going, in and out of jail for, an M&M's bag worth of drugs. And at that time in 2011, LEAD's policy coordinating group, so a group of stakeholders, including the mayor's office, the city council, SPD, Seattle City Attorney's Office, and then all of the same parallel folks on the county side, so the Executive Council, King County Sheriff's, and King County Prosecuting Attorney's Office, decided that this was not working for anyone involved. They wanted to create a more effective intervention. So they created LEAD, and the idea was that if an officer is in a position to arrest somebody for a set of divertible offenses, including misdemeanor drug possession, consumption, misdemeanor theft, bus misconduct, things often associated with people whose, criminal activity is associated with unaddressed behavioral health issues, extreme poverty, then that officer can make a diversion to LEAD. And essentially what that means is they can call us 24/7. We'll have a case manager go out and meet the officer and do a warm handoff with the client. And the idea is that we'll start working with that person. LEAD does not have its own housing resources. What we have is long-term intensive case management. So we'll work with that person to build a relationship. Many of our clients are people who have not had any form of support in many years. A lot of different situations and needs, but we'll work with that person to address their unmet needs. Help them apply for housing, help them get into behavioral health programs, just addressing their unmet needs, and of course, working to reduce their exposure to the criminal legal system, both in terms of trying to address the unmet needs that may have been driving the misdemeanor theft that they were diverted for, or otherwise.
Okay.
So LEAD is a framework of programs. I work for PDA, or Purpose.Dignity.Action, formerly known as the Public Defender Association. We are the project managers for the program, and then we subcontract to a number of service providers. In Seattle, we work with Reach, Ideal Option, and Pocan to do LEAD service provision. And so it's really a team effort between not only us and our subcontractors, but also our partners in the policy coordinating group, including law enforcement and the city attorney.
Wow. That's a mouthful.
A mouthful.
Right? Yeah, and that's why I've been here 18 months and I still don't know.
Of course, yeah.
But no, everybody's working really hard to serve the people that we serve.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that we can just throw an email out there and go, who does this?
Right.
Right. And we're all going to work together. You and I worked on something last spring, I think. It was pretty new, and we were trying to help a woman down here in Pioneer Square.
Right.
And that was when I kind of met you, just by email. And we were just on a group email going, how can we help this woman? Yeah. And I think we eventually kind of lost track of her, which is kind of sad. But normally a group like that can figure that out. And so I appreciate that we can do that.
Well, I do too. Community partnerships are very important to us, and And also, yeah, agree. It's a mouthful to explain the program, but it really is not so complicated in the big scheme, right? It's, when people have unlawful activity or are perceived to be, having a negative impact on the community, and when that's driven by things like unaddressed behavioral health issues and extreme poverty, they can often end up getting a punitive response rather than one that addresses those unmet needs. And what we want to do is just be a way to create the correct intervention to help them get what they need.
Yeah, that's really important. It's, so often people in poverty end up in jail or with, things on their record, when really it's just somebody helping them in a different way would solve the problem. There's just so much involved there with poverty and how people respond and all of that. So I'm glad that you guys are working in that space. We've had a lot of conversations here about homelessness in general and so on, what we think needs to happen in Seattle. Numbers are going up. There's one report that says that in the next 2 to 3 years, if we don't do anything different, the rate looks like it's going to double in Seattle. What do we need to do to stop that? What do you think we need to do?
I feel like there's a couple layers to that question. One, again, our case managers work to connect people to resources that they need. Many people need things like housing, need things like behavioral health supports that are not in great supply. There's a shortage. And that slows down the rate at which somebody can, get to a healthier place in life. But I think on another level too, particularly for our client demographic, people who have criminal legal system involvement, there's a lot of organization that needs to happen around, getting they have obligations in the criminal legal system that can impact their care plans. So, the sort of classic example I always use of like how this coordination could work in LEAD is somebody has a charge coming up from a year ago. It's being talked about in court, and because we're able to coordinate with the legal system, we can provide information such as this person has a housing opportunity coming up that could address the unmet need that originally drove that, original unlawful conduct. And the idea is that with more information about what's really going on with the full picture of that person's life, the whole system can make better decisions. And so, what might otherwise be somebody getting sentenced to something that would interfere with that housing opportunity, we can, between case managers and our prosecutorial liaisons, make better decisions that support public safety and, of course, that person's well-being. So I think there's, obviously a lot of resource shortages, but there's a lot of ways where when people get caught up in the criminal legal system, it can derail other planning that case managers are doing for them. Yeah. There's also a lot of ways to, just a simple example of ways that people, when they're involved in the criminal legal system, face particular barriers. If somebody is, in jail for more than 90 days, that removes their chronic homelessness status, which is a federal requirement on housing. And so there's all these little things where the population of people who have criminal legal system involvement are systematically deprioritized for things that would help them and in turn help, folks that are concerned with negative impacts on the community. So really trying to organize around how do we get people through the system in a better way to a better place.
Have better outcomes for the community and for the individual, right?
Right, yeah. and that's a big part of, when you were saying, mentioning that we worked together last spring. Community outreach is a big part of what we do at LEAD, because really, it's like we take referrals from law enforcement. And when we have capacity, we can also take referrals from the community. And we do that with the intent of really preempting 911 calls. If we can get to a person before they start to generate those calls, that's even better. We do a lot of community outreach to try to figure out what the community is seeing. And we have a lot of limitations on how we can take community referrals. Obviously, capacity is quite limited. And we do prioritize arrest diversions from law enforcement officers. But just very grateful to be able to work with community members like you and figuring that out.
Yeah. Um, you know, we've been talking about, you know, this intersection of really three crises, right?
Hmm.
So homelessness, addiction, and mental health, mental illness, untreated mental illness. I think. Um, it sounds like you work a lot with people with mental health problems.
Hmm.
So how much of an impact do you think that's making on the homeless issues in Seattle?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of our client population, there's certainly people who are, we call it True Blood class members. The True Blood class members comes from a lawsuit. True Blood is the last name of the plaintiff in the lawsuit against regarding people who are considered not mentally competent to understand the proceedings of the trial around them. And anyway, that's just jargon for. We have a lot of people in the LEAD program who are True Blood class members because they are both have mental health issues. Those have been raised in court, and they're of course legally involved. And so that comes with some additional funding for them. But essentially, we see a pretty high correlation between people who may have mental health issues and being more criminal legal system involvement. The resources for those folks that they require a little bit more support, whether it's if they're unhoused, street-based med management, additional clinical expertise by the case management teams to be able to more sufficiently respond to that person's needs. And yeah, it's a difficult thing, and the resources on the behavioral health side are more limited. We don't have enough clinical outreach teams that are able to do the management for our folks, but we also do a lot of good work with them. Like I was saying earlier, things like appropriate housing for folks is in very short supply, and I think that's especially the case for people who their housing, in order for them to be successful in it, requires more on-site support. But we will work with that person at whatever stage they're at. If we are not able to get them into housing right now, what we'll work on is to work with where they're at. So maybe that's figuring out how to get them on a good plan to manage their mental health issues. It's working with them on their goals, reducing their impact on the community, working with community members of, hey, like this is becoming an issue and businesses are frustrated by, the accumulation of belongings in this spot. And we'll work with that person to reduce the impact they have so that we can in turn, reduce the ways that their public safety impact will impact their ability to be on a good trajectory. So it does introduce a lot of complexities to the care plans that need to happen. But, to the point of there's a resource shortage, and there's also insufficient organizing around people with particularly complex needs.
Right.
That's part of the role that we try to play.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really complex system for a complex problem.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more we need to do there for sure. I was talking to a friend last night from Citygate Network, and I'm trying to remember the word. I can't remember words right now anyway, but this one's always hard. Synagogia. Do you know what I'm talking about? Anagogia. Oh, shoot.
I'm not
I've
sure.
lost it. It's that when certain people with mental illness really think they're okay, and that you're the problem, and they don't even know that that they have a problem.
Yeah.
What is that? You don't know that word either. Anyway,
Yeah.
do you experience that? Like, the part of the problem we were talking about is that yes, it's a real thing. It's a real part of mental illness that they think they're fine, but yet we can't really help people unless they say, yes, I need help. And so it's a catch-22.
Yeah.
Do you run into that?
I mean, I think the way I think about it is like everyone has different levels of self-insight into their own behaviors,
Right.
whether it's one of our clients or, you or me. And the idea of like the intensive case management that we provide people is that we'll meet them where they're at. Maybe a case manager's assessment of a person is they need, XYZ medication, they need to work on
Right.
getting this document so that we can work on housing. But if that person is not in a place where they're able to like meaningfully, they have the self-insight to recognize that for themselves, of course it won't be a very successful process, because it's critical that a person is a part of their own recovery from whatever that is.
Right.
So we'll work on whatever the client's goals are. Usually that's the first step, is what's going on, what do you need help with? And for some folks, maybe it's like they want a particular food item, and that will be part of the initial outreach. We'll work with them to build that rapport, and the ultimate goal is to build that self-insight. Because again, that person needs to be involved in their own journey, and so we center them at every step of the way.
Yeah. It just adds so much complexity to it,
Yeah.
like I said. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'll say, we have a lot of experience doing this with, some folks that in, certain neighborhoods are very well aware of individuals that they see every day.
Yeah.
And so that's part of the community outreach that we do, is to understand, like, what are all the touch points that this person is getting, whether it's from, the neighborhood's ambassador team, from law enforcement, from business owners. And the idea is to, like, to coordinate a response. We'll have situations where somebody has significant mental health issues. They're well known in the community, and instead of that being a thing where they're continuously getting 911 calls, we'll work with the community on, like, here's what like they have support. Please let us know when this happens, and then we can respond and be a part of making sure all these different touch points don't intersect with each other in harmful ways.
What else would you like to tell people? Like, you've got an audience here, I hope. What would you like them to know about the issues in Seattle, or what you guys do, or,
I guess the sort of the ethos of the work that we do is that there's a much greater area of intersection of all of our interests than is often perceived. I think we often think about, public safety and, person-based care as things that are contrary to each other. And what we've seen in the LEAD program is that, we work with law enforcement officers who want to find a way to, they're responding to the same person over and over. They want to find a way to, like, get that person to the place they need to go, and we're able to work with them. And the same for the community. And it's like through the coordination and, like, collaboration between all of these, I would say historically not necessarily collaborating groups, that we can get really good outcomes for our folks and for the community as a whole. And so this work for me has been a big learning experience in, like, what is possible with unlikely collaborations. And it really just comes down to, like, public safety includes everybody, communities, our unhoused clients, our folks out there who are, 911 is being called on them. And moving this forward as a whole can be something that works for everybody.
Yeah. The common thread with every one of my interviews has been relationship.
Right.
And that's really what you're talking about. You're getting in relationship with the people you're serving.
Right.
And that walking with them in one form or another.
Yeah.
And it's just been really interesting to hear that from everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone that I've met that's working in this area really loves the people that they're serving and wants to help them.
Yeah.
We all have different ideas about how that'll happen, but even my husband and I have different ideas about how something's going to happen, and we work through it and love each other and are respectful to one another. And I think the more we can talk about it like this and realize there's some things we'll disagree with, but there's a whole lot more common ground than we think, like you said, I think that's really important. So thank you for being here. Thank you for the work you do.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.